Boiler up, Brags in the stands. Let's go.
I'm Sasha Stefanovic from Purdue Men's Basketball, and you're watching Brags in the Stands.
Who's ready for Friday? Boiler up, hammer down, let's go.
The Bears, they started this new tradition last year where they celebrate their wins the correct way.
Bottle and Sylvie, ESPN 1000, don't miss it.
I know what you mean.
It's like their own Philly.
Okay. Okay, I think what it is.
We shouldn't be showing this. Am I crazy?
What a great sign that is. What have I told you? 17 minutes of rain would wash away 108 years of drought.
Do you see this team growing into the team that you were in 2005?
Great practice, everybody. Listen.
gotta say is, Greg Braggs, you are ridiculous.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. There's all the highlights here of the last few weeks. A very exciting couple of weeks here for Boilermakers Basketball. I am your host, Gregory Braggs Jr., and this is Braggs in the Stands. We're back. Been a busy couple of weeks. Flew out to Connecticut, as you can see with the highlights. Had a nice seat for the Villanova game, and had a lot of fun watching Purdue take down North Carolina and Villanova on back-to-back days, two of the biggest days, that they're going to have this season, when you consider, one day to prep for a team like Villanova and to come back down 11 to win that championship. And you saw there in the highlights them hoisting the trophy for the Hall of Fame tip-off tournament. A great early season achievement for what is already, becoming a very historic season for the Purdue Boilermakers, now ranked number 2 in the country, for the first time since 1988, the highest ranking this school has ever seen for their men's basketball program. The women's basketball program did have a number 1 ranking. Thank you very much. And then, obviously everybody knows the elephant in the room. Down goes Duke last night to Ohio State. A lot of Purdue fans were certainly perturbed by the Dukies getting the number 1 ranking over Purdue. But it's a voters game, and the AP decided 59-1 that Duke deserved it over Purdue. But if Purdue can take care of business on Friday, we will see what the rankings show this coming Monday. And I know a lot of Boilermakers fans are excited about that. But first things first, got to take care of business. So that's about as much crap talk as I'm going to do in regards to what the rankings are, because I'm a very superstitious fan. As you can see in the intro, I'm a Cub fan. So you got to be careful with how much crap you talk, because we've seen a few teams, Gonzaga and Duke and a lot of other teams here in the Big Ten that were highly ranked slip on the banana peel. So you got to be careful with how much you bark. Got to let the team bite first. So without further ado, let's introduce our guests here for today. And joining me once again here for the second straight Purdue show that we're doing here is my guy, Craig Bowers. We all saw him here in the last episode, and I explained that he runs one of the more popular Boilermakers Facebook pages, Boiler Diehards, and he does a fantastic job at that. And after each game, he gives his 10 thoughts after the Purdue basketball wins is mostly what I'm watching him, but he does it for all the sports. He's even watching volleyball here lately. So he does it all in regards to Boilermaker coverage. How we doing today? You're not Jake, but you are Craig Bowers. I got my graphics mixed up there, but how are we doing today, Craig?
Doing good. Just excited about what's happening right now. Obviously, like you mentioned, everybody's excited about what potentially could be. Don't want to look too far ahead, but got that Iowa game coming up on Friday. And as a Purdue basketball fan for a long time, just really excited to see what might happen if we take care of business on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Certainly exciting stuff. Unprecedented when you consider what this school has been through. 120 years in the history of this program, and the men's basketball team has never had a number 1 ranking. It's impossible to ignore it. The players are going to try their best to push all that to the periphery and focus on the Iowa Hawkeyes, certainly a team that can run up and down the court. But Friday night is you're going to be able to feel that energy, just like at the Florida State game but it's going to be, in my opinion, even more palpable as you walk in when everyone knows what's hanging on the line. And I kind of like that because this team has already had so many different tests thrown at them. It's early season, so you can only get so many, solid tests for what a national championship team that's aspiring to be that, can get here in November. And they've gotten them with North Carolina. They had both their bigs out, in the first half. They had to play without them. Villanova, they're down 10, and then you have Florida State come here after getting ranked number 2. And a lot of people are upset about that. Now they got to back up all the talk that the fans are talking for them. They got to cash the checks that the fans are writing out there on all the social media spheres. And they did that. They won by 30, and it's just one test after another. Now Friday, another big test for the Purdue Boilermakers. So I like that because this is what's going to give them their championship caliber medal. So we shall see how it all plays out. Another guy joining us here in this chat before our special guest here comes on in just a few moments, the color analyst of the Purdue Boilermakers men's basketball program, Bobby Riddell. We have joining us Ben Kolodzinski from ISC Purdue. Does fantastic work on the college, trail and on the high school beat as well, out there covering high school football games in the cold and the snow.
Oh my gosh.
I saw some of those videos you were posting at the back end of the season. I do high school coverage for Region Sports Network as well. And they had me doing football one year, and I was like, I like being in the gyms. I like basketball. you let somebody else do the videos for football because I like staying out of the elements when it gets to November.
Well, yeah, it is Northwest Indiana. We are just a few miles south of the beautiful lake shore of Lake Michigan, and the weather gets a little inclement at this time of year towards the end of October and into November as the state championship marches on for IHSAA football. But, it just comes with the territory as being a part of a little bit of inclement weather, getting some snow, getting some sleet, and all that stuff. But we have a lot of fun. I cover for PFR, Lakeshore Public Television, whatever you want to call us, 89.1 FM, the Lakeshore, up in Northwest Indiana, and covering some of the local sports. And it's definitely a passion of mine. I've been doing it for about 15 years now. And, it's my second passion other than the Purdue Boilermakers.
There you go. And you do a fantastic job. You got the voice, for it. And you got the good looks too. Some people like me just have the voice for it. They'll tell you, you got a voice for radio. You got a face for radio.
Yes,
as they say.
That's what I have.
You're a good looking man, man. If I must say, as we get it all out of the way, you're a good looking man. You do a great job.
Thank you. You flatter me.
Hey, that's what I got to butter you up before we get this train a rolling. You know what? And also, before we officially, you want to talk about not being organized. I didn't send Bobby the link. That's probably why he's like, what the heck? He literally just texted me. You sending me the link, right? That's right. I got to send Bobby the link for our special guest of the night so we can pick his brain. He's got to have the link to get in here. That makes a lot of sense. So there I am with my pure ADHD forgetting things. But I did a lot of good
no link. It doesn't work that way in this year, 2021 here.
Well, that's all right because, Johnny on the spot, our guy, without further ado, and I got a great video for him to intro him, coming right in as soon as I send it to him, our guy, Bobby. It's sniper, Bobby. Like that. You got the stuff. I got a great video for him.
Why are you creeping on me like that?
How does that feel when you get caught in the focus of
in the crosshairs of one Greg Braggs?
The Braggs in the stands sniper cam.
Braggs is in the stands. He's everywhere, and he's got you locked and loaded.
You hear the sniper cam, but then you also you hear the Serbian sniper, but I'm the stalker. The Braggs in the stand stalker. I'm in Connecticut, and he's trying to get down and do his job, go interview Painter, and there I come rumbling up the steps to bug him as I always do. But it's nice, it's a COVID season has passed. So, now I can run up on people and harass them like the old days, which is what that's what I specialize in. it's not just the videos here at Brags in the Stands. So, Bobby, how we doing tonight? How you feeling about everything that's transpired over the last 24 hours? Your opening thoughts, if you will.
Yeah, just really excited, honestly, about where everything's headed. If the Boilers take care of business against the Hawkeyes on Friday night, we're going to be ranked number 1 for the first time in school history, which pretty incredible, pretty awesome. Certainly when I was there, my 5th year as a graduate assistant coach, that was the year Robbie unfortunately went down with his injury, and we were in pretty good shape there to possibly get ranked number 1. We were going to have to beat Michigan State at home. We were up big at Minnesota before Robbie got hurt, so we were certainly going to win that game going away. We ended up winning on a game-winning shot by Keaton Grant at the end after Robbie's injury. But we were going to win that game going away, and then we were going to come home after the number 1 and 2 teams in the country had lost. We were going to come home and play Michigan State that weekend in Mackey, and we'd had their number in Mackey for a while, and honestly still do to this day. But if we beat them that game at home, we're ranked number 1 the next week. Obviously, unfortunately, Robbie went down, and that didn't come to pass, but now we have this chance Friday to beat the Hawkeyes at home and have that number 1 ranking on Monday, and I'm really excited about that opportunity. So hopefully we don't underestimate the Hawkeyes. Them being undefeated certainly will help us not, and they just come off a nice win at Virginia in the ACC Challenge, so we'll see if the Boilers respond Friday.
Yeah, it is. It's a huge opportunity. I was watching Sasha's interview earlier with Tom Brew of Sports Illustrated, and they're trying to say, rankings don't matter. And that is true. I mean, the players, and Matt Painter's probably beating it to death to them and to not pay attention to it. But at the same time, it's a huge accomplishment, huge opportunity to never have been ranked number 1 in 120 years in the history of the school program for the men's basketball, side of things. And, for recruiting and, for a team that's trying to elevate themselves into the next level of, the teams that are respected each and every year at the highest order. And the recruiting classes keep on coming here for Matt Painter and the Boilermakers. So they're just going to continue to build on this and to be able to be ranked number 1. Who knows how long it'll be? No guarantees. Purdue will, if they can even win on Friday or hold it for however long they can. But at the same time, it is something that then puts you in a different stratosphere as far as a basketball program. How much do you think you're close to this team? You talk to these players, you get, during your post-game show with Rob Blackman, you guys do a great job and you interview the players, and I'm sure you're around them day to day. How much do you think there is that pressure going into this game? I mean, they've shown so much focus here, over the weekend in Connecticut, last night against Florida State, all this ranking talk, and then to beat Florida State, a great team by 30. How much do you think they're thinking about that stuff? Is it added pressure for them?
I mean, I'm sure it's certainly a little added pressure. They obviously want to achieve that number 1 ranking. That's never been done in school history. I mean, I know if I was in that position, I would be ecstatic about the opportunity and probably feel a little bit of added pressure, but there's always pressure before every game. There's those nervous butterflies before every game. So they're going to be feeling that no matter what. And honestly, the good news for this team is they're so talented that I don't care how nervous they are. Their talent alone is going to put them in a great spot. So, I'm sure they're going to say all the right things in the media about how it's just another game and the rankings don't matter, yada, yada, because, that's what they'll say. But I know behind the scenes, they're talking and they really want to achieve that goal. And everybody wants that number 1 next to their name because it's a prideful thing. And this will be a great opportunity for Purdue to be presented, as the best team in the country. And it's great for the program. And certainly Coach Painter wouldn't mind it from recruiting and all those sorts of things that come along with it. So they'll say all the right things, but they definitely want it. There's going to be definitely some little added pressure, but the good thing for Purdue is they're so loaded that it may not matter much.
Yeah, I mean, they showed that here against Florida State. I'll kick it over to Craig and let Craig and Ben get some questions in, and then we'll just start rolling along. We don't plan as far as questions go. We just kind of let the conversation flow. So feel free, guys, to jump in whenever you want. I know I dominate the talking. I don't know how to shut up. So jump in at any time. I'll go backstage. Bobby knows this. I don't have to talk, but if I do, I will talk for 2 hours. So go ahead and take it away, Craig.
Yeah, Bobby, I guess, the last time we talked, we were talking about what might be and what could be with this team. As you watch them play now over these last 6 games, what's maybe the one thing that's jumped out and surprised you that you weren't expecting that's popped up here either as a team or as a specific individual on that team? What's maybe something that jumped out and surprised you that you didn't expect?
Man, I mean, I was certainly expecting them to be really good. And I'm like a biased Purdue fan. I'm always kind of glass half full, but I was even like, man, we're going to be really good this year. So I was certainly expecting us to be great. Maybe not quite this great. I will say, like, not record level of efficiency offensively and like record level percentages as far as like last 20 years. I think we're one of 3 teams. I think I saw last night on SportsCenter, one of 3 teams to have, maybe this is it here, something along those lines. Yeah, we're basically more than 80 points, more than 50% field goal, and more than 35% three. And we're actually like more than 40% three, I think, and more than 60% 2-point field goal and more than 90 points. So it's pretty crazy where we're at from an efficiency standpoint and from a percentage standpoint. Because last year, 3-point shooting wise, we were pretty average to be even below average. We had a couple guys like Isaiah and Sasha in particular who shot it really well. Brandon certainly had his moments too. But outside of that, like a lot of the other guys really dragged our percentages down. And now you have a guy like Jaden who was 37.5% coming into yesterday's game, goes 4 of 6. So that percentage went up. Isaiah's shooting a crazy like 60% or more. And then, even just some of the role guys like Caleb First is shooting a nice percentage. And so I think definitely just how well we're shooting, just how well we're playing offensively, considering we have played like 3 pretty good opponents. That's what's impressed me the most is just like how dynamic we are offensively. Like we're even another level than I thought we'd be.
Now, Bobby, I had a question for you. As someone who had actually played at this level, at a high level here in the Big Ten, when you reach a certain milestone, and the milestone that Purdue is approaching is the number 1 ranking in the nation, which is something they have never done, not in my lifetime, but not in anyone's lifetime. Is that something that has a team clam up a little bit, or is that more of a motivating factor for this squad?
That's interesting. I mean, I know like that team that we had that was pursuing that number 1 ranking, it was a very motivating factor. We never ended up getting that. So don't have that, knowledge of how we handled that situation if we would have got it. But, I think it's something like, when you're the defending champion, you're always going to have, it's hard to stay on top, right? Like it's hard to, it's very hard to reach the mountaintop, but then hard to always defend the title. Braggs knows all those great Bulls teams always talked about like defending the title and how hard it was because everyone's coming for you. You're going to get everybody's best shot. So if you have that number 1 ranking next to your name, you're going to get everyone's best shot, obviously. Exactly. So there's going to be a target on your back. So there's definitely going to be some pride for the team to keep the number 1 ranking and represent themselves as what I know they believe they're the best team in the country, and they've been playing like it. So, but it's going to come with the target, and it's going to come with everyone's best shot. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. And that's the one thing this year that Purdue hasn't had to do yet is play a true road game. And we know what Big Ten road environments are like.
Right.
So assuming we beat Iowa, if we do, hopefully we do, we'll have the number 1 ranking when we go play
Rutgers.
Rutgers. Yeah, will be that next game and the first road game of the season. So you're going to roll into a road environment with the number 1 ranking next to your name. And, Rutgers is solid. They're struggling a little bit to start the year, but they got a lot of solid players returning from last year's team. I know Geo Baker has given us fits for a long time. So that place can get rowdy there at Rutgers. So we're going to have to be ready to take their best shot because they're going to be coming for us with that number 1 ranking.
Yeah, when I've asked Sash, who is toughest opponent he's had to go up against individually, he's always mentioned Geo Baker. Was one of the first names out of his mouth, and Geo is a great player. I was surprised they didn't make the tournament last year, and again, rocky start, but a rocky start a little bit for the entire Big Ten. But then, as we saw last night, the Big Ten is going to right the ship. They're a solid conference, and but you're absolutely right. When I talked about tests earlier with these guys, with Craig individually, we were talking about, Purdue's already had some tests here in November. You don't get too many tests in November, and with the Big Ten maybe not being as tough with top 15 caliber type teams as they have the last few years, you're trying to find any kind of test you can. So they're ready for March this time around, with all the disappointment, with the end of last year's March Madness, unfortunate ending. And now this is, the next test here is to grab that number one spot. There's going to be a lot of pressure, a lot of tension in the air before the game Friday night. And I like that because I want to see how these guys respond. They responded down 11 to Villanova, and I feel like that was something that really probably emboldened them. Like, hey, if we can do this against them, we can do it against anybody kind of mentality, I would think. That's how I feel just watching as a fan. And now you pass that test. And then I am interested if they can get to the mountaintop. Then you've got, like you mentioned, with the Bulls. No, they don't have Michael Jordan. You're taking every team's best shot each day, each game you go out. And that's a totally different type of pressure. And that's the kind of pressure you're going to live with when you're a 1 seed in the tournament, when you play the 16 seed and the 8, however it, goes as the tournament goes. And, it'll be really, really interesting to see how they handle that. It's exciting just to look at it all from a bigger picture with everything that's transpired. Well, I mean, I can't imagine what happened in that Providence game that they lost. I mean, I know there was no foul limits. Guys had like 10 fouls in that game.
Stuff and all that.
But at the same time, like the way they played, did Painter throw the game like we saw in the Dream Team documentary, like Chuck Daly did, just to get these guys, to get their back straightened up a little bit?
Were Grant Hill and Bobby Hurley playing for Providence that day?
I don't know, but really interesting, big picture wise. But let's go into it. And like I said, you guys can jump in at any time, and any players individually that you have. I've got different things queued up. But there is a video I'd like to play. It's about a minute long, so bear with me. But we hear so much from Matt Painter, and to me, he's the best coach in the country. And I've been saying that a few years now, and hopefully this year he can prove that out to be true. But he's definitely one of the best coaches in the country, and I love hearing his thoughts after games. I'm always trying to pick apart what he's trying to say because I can tell it's some of the things he says to the players in the locker room. So it's like fun to try to decipher the Painter verbiage. But Craig Bowers here, he shared something on Facebook with the opposing coach last night, Leonard Hamilton from Florida State, and I thought his words were very profound with what he had to say, with what he saw with Purdue. So I'm going to play that clip and let you react to that, Bobby, and we'll take it from there.
Coach Painter and his team a lot of credit for assembling probably the most complete basketball team that I've played against in a long, long time. They're extremely mature. They don't get rattled. They execute with precision. They're very familiar with each other. They play to their strengths. They shot exceptionally well. If they shoot as well from the perimeter as they shot against us tonight, I think they're going to be awful hard to beat. I have somewhat of an inexperienced team, not nearly as experienced as we have been over the years. And once we cut it there in the first half, and experienced teams take advantage. They flexed their muscles and went on a 7-0 run right there at the end of the first half, which dug a little hole for ourselves. We cut it again to, I think, 8, about 11 minutes ago in the second half. We missed 2 layups, turned the ball over twice. They went on a 12-0 run. But that's what good teams do. They responded very well under that type of situation. And if they continue to keep doing that, it's going to be awful hard to beat. They need to be congratulated just for their level of execution. Go back.
There it is, Leonard Hamilton, head coach of Florida State, a very good team that's made it to the Sweet 16 here a couple times, maybe Elite 8 as well. I mean, this is a team that throws a lot of different things at you, and Purdue had it's like a chess match, and they just kept checkmating them every time, and so it's was interesting to watch that unfold last night. But some pretty profound words from the head coach of Florida State.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, those are amazing compliments from Leonard Hamilton. He had some high praise for Purdue, as we just saw. And Purdue, the way they played last night, I can understand why. We just were shooting the ball at a high level from the perimeter. And obviously with our 2 big guys, we pose a lot of problems for teams defensively. And one thing I've been so impressed with Coach how Coach Painter's done it so far with the depth that we have. And granted, Mason's only been back here for a couple games, but I thought it was going to be really hard for Coach to play a 10-man rotation just because in Coach Painter's tenure at Purdue, we've never played more than like a 9-man rotation. So I was like, I don't know how he's going to be able to do this 10-man rotation. Someone's probably going to be the odd man out. And then obviously Trey Kaufman redshirted to help the situation a little bit. But because sometimes when you get a lot of guys in the rotation, it can go one of two ways where you can either get it where guys start looking over their shoulders a little bit. They're maybe not getting in a rhythm as much if they're not getting as many minutes. You can kind of have that downside of things if there's too many guys in the rotation. Or what we're seeing, I feel like so far, and it's early, but we're seeing from a positive standpoint, I feel like, is guys, instead of it being those downsides, like I mentioned, it's being the upside of, okay, I don't have to be out there for super long extended periods, so I can give it 110% every moment I'm out there, knowing that if I get tired, like I can come out, I can get subbed out, and then there's no drop off. For the most part, I mean, Seth Greenberg said it last night. We're Noah's Ark because we have
that was a great
everything.
line.
And outside of like Jaden Ivey, we don't have 2 Jadens, but outside of that, we do pretty much have like 2 of everything as far as all the other positions, as far as very little drop off. And then Ethan, who is, the guy kind of backing up Jaden there, even though he's not Jaden, from a just true talent standpoint, I feel like Ethan's been giving us really good minutes,
Yep.
Like 12, 13 minutes a game coming in, playing super hard, really good active defense, making very unselfish passes. He's a great ball mover. Like when he's out there with Sasha and Isaiah, he's swinging that thing around, getting those guys quick, or he's making those quick passes and rotations before the defense can rotate and getting those guys some open looks. So it's a great 10-man rotation, and I can see why Leonard Hamilton's like, not only are they talented, but they're experienced. They play within Coach Paint's system to perfection thus far. They really know what they're doing. And then if the defense continues to improve, as Coach Painter keeps stressing, we're going to be really tough to beat.
Yeah, the familiarity with each other, as he mentioned. Painter talks about this all the time when they talk about transfers from other schools. Purdue didn't take any transfers because they're so loaded. And he's like, well, it's one thing to bring in talent. It's another thing for talent to know how to play with each other. And you're seeing that with this team. And Leonard Hamilton alluded to that a little bit. But I'm with you. Of all the players, and we can go up and down the list, and I'd love to. Ethan Morton has been the biggest surprise to me because I was nervous for him. That was my word for him going into the season because I felt bad for him last year. He gets mono to start the year. This is a high-profile player, first ever top 50 out-of-state recruit, comes to Purdue and barely plays, doesn't redshirt like Trey does or Sasha or Brandon Newman did, and now it's a wasted season in a lot of ways for him because he wants to play. He's a great player, and now I'm sitting there like, how's he going to get his opportunity with this team so loaded and all this different, depth they have, and he's kind of the one that has to prove himself, and you're 100% right. He absolutely has. He's big body, he can get inside and body up a guard. And as you said, he's a pass first kind of guy, which really plays to the strengths of this Purdue team. And, he plays well on defense. And when he puts up a shot, he's got a good shot. So he's a good decision maker. I'm loving everything I'm seeing from Ethan Morton here so far. But to me, and you could maybe touch on this or add on to this, but Trayvon Williams set the tone for this season when he came out and said, if you're worried about minutes, you're worried about the wrong thing. And, I think a lot of guys on this team are looking for leadership, and the seniors got to be the ones that take that torch. And for him to say that when he's the one that lost his starting spot to Zach Edey, and to see how much of a cheerleader he is when he's on the sidelines or when he comes out and brings that energy, I could not say enough great things about Trayvon Williams. This guy, to me, is the catalyst to what has transpired here in this first month. And I think this picture kind of embodies it at the Connecticut, in Connecticut when they won the Hall of Fame tip-off. Hugging Zach Edey. Like, these guys, it's truly a brotherhood. There's no ill will towards each other about who's taking whose minutes. These guys care about each other, about each other's success and the team's success. And that's a credit to what Matt Painter's built in this program, but it's a credit to these players to buy in and truly buy in. It's one thing to just say it to the media, and it's another thing to be it. And Trayvon Williams, NBA type of talent, could have, he sniffed around the NBA at the end of last year in the offseason, and to come out with this kind of an attitude and be the closer, but, letting Edey take the starting role. Can't say enough about Trayvon Williams.
Now, Greg, we have to be completely honest with ourselves here. Trayvon Williams is an NBA talent. Whether or not he's starting, I don't think the NBA scouts care. It's about how you can play ball. It's about how you can score, how you can distribute the ball, how you get after rebounds, and how you play defense. And you look up and down this roster. You look at everything around this entire team. There is not one human being on this team that cannot go for double digits in one night. That balance is what you're looking for. You're looking for someone who can, if say, I'm just pulling a name out of my hat, Sasha has a rough night. Well, you've got 3 or 4 other guys that can pick up that 3-point shooting on the back end of him. If Jaden has a rough night, you've got Brandon Newman, you've got Isaiah Thompson who just hit that 3 right there. These are the types of people who can flesh out this team. And we were talking about some of these players here and how highly regarded they are. You got to keep in mind we have Mr. Basketball Indiana. We have Mr. Basketball Pennsylvania. We have a whole bunch of really talented players on our team that are just now realizing the potential. And there's not only is this team in a position to be a very tough and successful team, they're positioned to be successful for years to come.
Completely agree, Ben. It's an exciting thing for everybody involved with this Purdue men's basketball team. Craig, what you got here as far as thoughts or questions here for Bobby?
Yeah, I think one thing that I just wanted to touch on, as we look at Jaden coming into this year and the way he's impacting the game, and a lot of times to me, it's not necessarily showing up in statistics all the time, because when he drives and collapses the defense and then he kicks it out and then that guy kicks it to the next guy and maybe that guy kicks it to the next guy, it all started by Jaden breaking that down, even though it's not going to show up as an assist or something like that. And it sure seems, when we compare him to somebody that was super dynamic like Carson was going to impact the game scoring and primarily through scoring. Jaden can do it through assists, through rebounding, through steals, through blocks, whatever it is. And it sure seems like he's become really comfortable in understanding that he doesn't have to go get 20 to 25 every night. And that's impressed me, because I wonder, coming into the season with all the NBA hype, is he going to feel like he has to get 20 plus every night? I guess, Bobby, from your standpoint, looking at that, at these last few games, what's your take on that?
I agree with everything you just said. I mean, the maturity that he's had this year, the NBA scouts, would they love if he dropped 30, of course, but they want to see him, be a team player. They want to see him be able to make his teammates better around him. You see a Steph Curry or John Morant, as talented as those players are, they make their teammates better around them. And that's what Jaden's doing. I mean, I was really impressed last year with his vision. It was small sample size, a lot of it, but it was I felt like Carson, as you said, terrific player, but a scorer, tunnel vision. When I'm driving that thing down the lane, I'm attacking the rim to try to score. Every once in a while, he'd dump it off for a dunk or something, but for the most part, he was a scorer mentality. Jaden would come in and kick it to somebody or wrap around pass, and I was like, wow, that was impressive, just for a guy that I would have thought been trying to score every time. And so I was impressed last year, and then this year he's obviously taken it to a whole other level. And then what's even separated him further, just how dynamic he's been in transition. When he's got the ball in transition, it's just watch out. And every blue moon, he maybe drives into traffic when he shouldn't and turn it over or something. But it's a lot more positive than it is negative for Purdue, and it gives guys like Sasha or Isaiah early, quick, open threes uncontested, without having to face a set defense. And it's just amazing how we get a defensive rebound. And if you get Jaden the outlet, we're going. And it's big time stuff. And then kind of to piggyback what Ben and Greg were talking about with Trayvon Williams, as far as him setting the tone, there's 4 guys coming off our bench. I don't know the exact numbers from a start standpoint. Brandon might not have hit this threshold, but I think Brandon, Mason, Trayvon, and Eric all started over 20 games last year.
Yep.
And we all come off the bench this year. Like, that's insane. Like, you have 4 guys come off your bench that started like 15, 20 games apiece last year or more. And so just incredible the depth and just buying into the team concept and the winning cures all, of course, for the most part. But, Ben touched on Trayvon as far as a pro prospect. And I thought for a long time he was probably just going to be one of those tweeners where, like, if he played in 1994, he'd be, a 14-year pro like Charles Oakley or somebody like that.
I almost said Charles Oakley too. That's funny.
Like, I thought he'd be one of those guys, but then I was like, today's landscape. It's
or
just
Zach Randolph.
Yeah.
He's got that same kind of touch as Zach does.
He does. And he doesn't have a lot of perimeter skills from a shooting standpoint, but he's got now that I've seen more of him, the guy who I think he really could end up being is Draymond Green. Because the way Trayvon's been getting down in a stance and guarding this year on the perimeter, like taking dudes' balls on the perimeter, like picking their pockets and stuff and moving his feet, and the way he passes like Draymond, the way he handles. I mean, I think he's got a chance to be like one of those ultimate small ball fives, like a Draymond at the next level, the way he rebounds, passes, handles, moves his feet defensively. So I think Trayvon's actually done wonders for himself this year.
Specifically against Villanova. He's guarding the perimeter against Villanova, and that excited me because I'm sitting there, you're watching Gonzaga and Duke, and you're trying to figure out how they'd match up with either one of those great teams. If it ever got to that point, let's hope. And you're sitting there like, well, they got this Holmgren that can, dribble and drive and shoot and do all this stuff. And Trayvon, the way he guards on the perimeter, as you mentioned, he can guard a guard on the perimeter, not just big guys.
He slides his feet well when he wants to.
And he got that big steal last night when the game was still kind of at hand. I think they got it down to 8, and then I think that's when he got that pickpocket steal, like a Alex Caruso or something, and then he comes back down on that very next possession. And I like they were really trying to block off passing it into the post. So they're like, all right, we'll just give it to Trayvon at the top and let him dribble all the way in because he's so big and handles the ball so well and has such nice touch. It's a real gift to have. And like I said, I could spend a whole show talking about Trayvon Williams because I think he has truly been the catalyst to what everything, the precision they've played with, but more importantly, the focus and the positive energy they've had with the way Painter has tasked them with their roles. And he has really just taken that and ran with it, and everybody's following his lead in that regard.
Right.
Go ahead, Ben.
So think of it this way: how many teams in the nation have an All-American coming off the bench?
Not many.
And not only is he an All-American coming off the bench, he is the effort and moral and spiritual leader of this team. So not only is he the human being who is going to come in and be your change of pace center, which is a shock when you think about it, but he is also the person that can sit there as a coach. He can look back, he can monitor, he can look at this team and go, hey, I think I found a weakness here by watching the first 4 minutes of the game. And he can take advantage of it, and he can impose his will later in the game. He has done an excellent job of that this year. And again, I keep coming back to this. If you don't think the NBA scouts are noticing that, they absolutely are.
100%. And we have a question in the chat from Greg Jones. Great first name, Mr. Jones. And he wants to know, looking ahead, which is what fans do. The players shouldn't, but the fans are going to. But he wants to know if this team does not make a Final Four, is it a disappointment? I heard that on the telecast last night at the back end of the game. They mentioned them, Elite 8 minimum. And, I think all these players on the team certainly set their bar of what their expectations are for themselves and the team. But do you believe it would be defined as a disappointment if they didn't make it all the way to the Final Four, which would be the first time since 1980?
I think disappointment and failure are two different things. I would say disappointment, yes, without a doubt. This team is, in my opinion, the best team in the country. So if they don't make the Final Four, I think that would be a disappointment. Absolutely. This team has all the talent. If they stay healthy, I think I would honestly almost be surprised if they don't make the Final Four. That being said, the NCAA tournament's one game. Like if it's a 7-game series, Purdue would make the Final Four. I'd almost guarantee that. But in a one and done situation, we saw what happened against North Carolina, for instance. North Carolina is not a perfect team this year. They ended up losing to Tennessee a lot the next game, but they gave us a really tough game. They were right there with us, hitting shots at a high level. Like you saw what happens in one game. Like we easily could have ended up losing that North Carolina game if a couple plays go the other way late in that game. And so if we lose some Elite Eight game to another obviously really good team, in a barn burner, I'm not going to call the season a failure because we didn't make the Final Four because we lost one game. Would that be extremely disappointing? Yes, but not a failure. So I didn't really answer the question all the way.
I want to hop in here on this, Bragg. So, when we look at the NCAA tournament, to me, it is the most exciting, end of season way to pick a champion. It is also probably the single worst way to find the best team of anything that is done in sports. Like in terms of truly identifying who the best team is. If you look at, like you said, the NBA playoffs and they're playing a best out of 5 or best out of 7, whatever the series is, that's a true indicator to me of finding the best team out there. NCAA tourney, most exciting one out there. But how many times can we say the best 4 teams actually ended up in the Final Four from that year?
Very rarely, yeah.
Never.
I think all 4 1 seeds have made it a couple times, one or two times maybe, but yeah, very rarely.
How many times have you seen a team like George Mason make it to the Final Four? Loyola Chicago a couple years ago. These are really good, talented teams, but the teams that got hot at the right time that didn't necessarily encapsulate their entire work of the season. And when you're in a situation where one game, one bad outing can determine whether or not you are the champion, the best in the league, or the best in the nation, that's a really tough ask. There's a lot of luck involved with it, and how many times? Let's look at last year. If Purdue plays North Texas 7 games, who's going to win the series? Right. But you know what? More power to North Texas. They were stronger, and they took care of it that day, and that's what mattered to them. Good for them, and they earned it, and they deserved it. But in a game 7 series, I'm not so sure Purdue doesn't come out on top of that. But you know what? You got 68 teams, 64, 68, whatever it is nowadays. If you are you don't have that opportunity to play a best of 3, best of 5, best of 7 game series. It's just, hey, rock and roll. That's why, like what Craig said, and I agree with him completely. Is it the most exciting? Absolutely. It's the most exciting tournament. And, I take vacation days from work, whether or not I'm covering it for ISC or I'm just enjoying it with a beer in my hands. I take vacation days the first 2 days of the tournament to make sure that I am I don't miss an ounce of that excitement. But to be honest, the God's honest truth with you, just because you win the NCAA tournament doesn't necessarily mean you're the best team.
Yeah, and so much of it's matchup driven too. And what benefits Purdue this year, though, just because they look right now like such a complete team, they're going to be able to win a lot of different ways. And obviously, so far this season, they've shot the ball great, so they've been able to kind of blow out teams, or a lot of teams. They have that great inside presence too, so they will be able to hopefully, if they get into an NCAA tournament game and aren't shooting it great to start, can weather that storm and stay in the game with their hopefully improved defense throughout the year, with hopefully scoring points in transition behind Jaden Ivey, and then hopefully obviously going inside to Zach Edey and Trayvon Williams. So whereas one team, which is maybe really good, but if they were totally perimeter oriented, they could have a bad shooting day and be done. Well, hopefully Purdue, even if they have a bad shooting day, could hopefully still score enough points with their interior players and then hopefully play good enough defense to still maybe win a low scoring game. So does help Purdue from that standpoint, but as we just all pointed out, like in one game, anything could happen against because any team that makes the tournament, as North Texas proved us last year, like any team who makes the tournament is going to be good enough to beat anybody probably on one given day. I think you're on mute, Greg.
Greg is muted.
Rookie mistake, Braggs. So, but look no further than a team that took down Purdue in the Elite Eight. They had previously in the season before Virginia lost to a 16 seed.
Exactly.
And that's and Sasha mentioned this in the last show we did, our Purdue basketball edition. where, hey, that's a team that lost in the first round, came back and won the national championship the next year, because that is one of my concerns. Like, I really was hoping they'd get to the second weekend last year to learn and experience that for, everyone kind of anticipated this season was going to be big if you're following this team close enough. But you're 100% right, guys, when it comes to, already have seen all these different teams and different styles, different tests thrown at them. And that being the obstacle you're going to have to overcome in the tournament. North Carolina played fast up and down, and they matched that. They were even down 1 in the second half, and they didn't blink and continued to play fast. Villanova tried to methodically beat them, and Purdue matched that. By hook or by crook, they were down 11, so it definitely got scary. And then Florida State, all the different defensive looks they were giving them. I like that. I need more of that this year. I liked seeing Ohio State win yesterday in a big game, because I want them to get as many tests as they can get before the big dance hits. It was a little disconcerting at first watching all these Big Ten teams getting, rolled. And so I'm happy to see, them playing well against the ACC. Granted, the ACC may not be as good as they normally have been in years.
Yeah, you're seeing these tests that Purdue is undertaking. You've got the run and gun team like in North Carolina, the guard-oriented team in Villanova. You've got the size and aggression-oriented team in Florida State. Now, these are all determinable and applicable situations where they can go, hey, this is an attribute. Here's the test that Purdue has now is the mental game. They have to win one game to get their prize of being the number 1 team in the nation. This is a mental test as opposed to a physical test, which is what we have seen to this point. Does this team have the mettle to do it? And I think they do. They have that leadership that can take care of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm just a fair warning
about the one and done situation, though. Sorry to cut you off, Greg, but
you're good.
Just a quick little it's kind of nice that they have this because the NCAA tournament is obviously a one and done situation. So one game every tournament every time. This is a one game. We got to focus in. We got to win this game to get the number 1 ranking. And it's kind of nice to have a little test early in the season where, hey, we got to win this one game.
You either get it or you lose the chance at it. Oh, and then when they get it, each game is to hold it, because then if they lose one game, they're going to put Gonzaga in there as fast as your head can spin, even though they can barely beat Tarleton State. But I digress. I said I wasn't going to talk crap, and I just did it. But I can't help myself. And then, like we pointed out with this stat, which is very impressive for Purdue, only 3 teams to have accomplished this feat through the first 7 games, while the other 2, one being a former number 1 seed in Syracuse, and the other being that North Carolina Tar Heel team that won the national championship with Tyler Hansborough, correct? And so, that's good company to keep. Doesn't guarantee anything, but certainly on the right path. And we also have, I also want to warn everybody in the chat and for you guys tuning in, Tal Carcino and, her better, Carmen's better half, Tal and Carmen, they're both diehard Iowa Hawkeye fans. So they've already gotten the brakes beat off them in football. And so now they're loyal fans to what I do and Trey Tunes does over at the Trey Tunes show. And we become good friends. But I just want to warn everybody in the chat, we got 2 Hawkeye fans in the chat. So, if you want to, pick on them, I will allow it. You won't get banned from the chat. And you better watch it, Carmen, or we'll boot you out of here faster. No, I'm kidding. So I just, wanted to, set the table for them. But, when Craig and I were talking, he said, hey, it's harder to talk about this team when they're so good because there's harder talking points to find because it's just, the hype machine like we've done here to start this interview. And it's like, trying to pick the little things of what they can get better is kind of where Craig's mind space is at. And I like that because, for me, I can get lost in the clouds like any fan. I'm the ultimate hype guy, except with my Chicago Bears right now when we're trying to fire everybody and we chanted at every game. But, with this team, Bobby, what are you looking at as far as maybe not deficiencies, but things they need to work on here going forward to achieve the goals they want to achieve?
Yeah, I think, a lot of it's going to be defense. We've certainly talked about that to some degree. The other piece of it would be turnovers. They get a little loose with the ball at times, Jaden in particular, especially if we continue to play teams like a Florida State that really get out there and pressure, like Duke really gets out and pressures. They try to make the ball handlers make individual plays. So they are not going to allow easy catches, let you run your sets and move the ball from side to side. They're going to really pressure, deny passing lanes, and they're going to force or try to force guys who maybe aren't as comfortable putting the ball on the floor have to make plays off the bounce. And we saw some of those issues against Florida State. Certainly there was a couple possessions where Eric Hunter is out there dribbling the ball for 20 seconds because he's trying to pass it to run a play, but they're denying the wings and Purdue is not able to move the ball. And then fortunately, a couple of those possessions still ended up with Purdue getting some success late in the shot clock. And that's where it is nice to have a guy like Jaden, as far as as long as you can get the ball to him with 5 seconds on the shot clock, there's a chance you can still get a halfway decent look. But certainly having, other guys besides Jaden step up and be able to continue to show like they did last night, that they can handle tough pressure and that Purdue as an offense can still score when they play teams that really get up there with athletes and denying pressure. And last night we showed we can. But then defensively, I think it's just about, when we play, when we play teams that have bigs that can shoot, that can pick and pop on Zach or Trayvon, even though Trayvon's becoming much better at guarding, on the perimeter this year, picking and popping on a guy like Zach. And a couple teams have made some threes, like Dawson Garcia for North Carolina made a couple that was putting us in a bind. Those sorts of teams can certainly, and that's the type of team like a mid-major team you might run into in the second round of the NCAA tournament, a team that's smaller but got a bunch of guys who can shoot. And if they're hot that one day as they're spreading you out, that could certainly be an issue. And then I know one thing the coaches are really working on is guys, when they're off the ball, when they're not guarding the ball defensively, are they in the right spots off the ball? So if penetration happens, can they do their job as far as if they're guarding a guy who can shoot, are they bluffing at the ball handler and getting back? If they're guarding a guy who can't really shoot, are they in position to stop the ball handler, make him pass it, and then recover short to their guy? And just little things like that, like being in the right position, knowing who you're guarding, knowing your responsibility as far as personnel. That's all the stuff they're just going to continue to work on and get better at. And that hopefully will continue to get better as the year goes on.
Craig, what you got? Because this is certainly thought process as far as, where to find the holes, something that I thought, I piggybacked off of this to try to jumpstart it. Where's your mindset at when it comes to that?
I think he pointed out the two that jumped out. I was talking to my brother last night about this as well. And that's kind of where, my focus was the turnovers. There was maybe 4 or 5 of those turnovers that, a team like Florida State, and we can look back historically about teams that apply a lot of high on-ball pressure. Maybe we've historically struggled with and turned the ball over a little bit more. And I think we had 13 last night, so not terrible. But still, there was 4 or 5 last night that you were just like, how'd that happen? Some unforced turnovers, you might say, to clean up. And then obviously defensively. And I think, as we look at Friday night, I think we're number 2 right now in points per game scored of all teams in the country. But who's number 1? It's Iowa. So as we look defensively, I think this is going to be a really good opportunity for them to try to kind of shore that up a little bit come Friday.
I got the AC going now, and I'm sure it's picking up on the mic. And I did it again, and everybody in the chat's going to make fun of me about it. But we did have a comment in the chat about, how this team, it's like over under, how many points are they going to score between the two of them? Because, Iowa certainly pushes the ball. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But, we got a comment in the chat from Taco Grease, big Boiler fan, saying he doesn't want the ranking because it comes with too much pressure. But I think this team, I like that they're going to have that target. It's a good test, especially early in the year. So we'll see if they can get it against Iowa, and we can make fun of Tal and Carmen once they do. But it's fun stuff to talk about without question. Obviously Zach Edey has been a big story this year, Bobby. that before last game at that point, and I don't know what his numbers have changed to. Purdue had posted his numbers on the year, and they are quite staggering. I mean, shooting 75% from the field. And then to me, the number that jumps out is the free throws, 28 of 33 for a guy that's 7'4". I mean, have you ever seen somebody with this kind of talent level at that kind of height? Because Purdue has had, a lot of, it's like big man U. Every big man now needs to start looking at Purdue first and foremost to come here. But have you ever seen anybody with this kind of height show this kind of, special ability to, not only score, an easy bucket inside the paint, but shoot that well from the free throw line?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a lofty comparison, but it's something that, has been thrown out there. I'm not the first person to make this comparison. It's been thrown out there, but the Yao Ming comparison to me is legit. Yao Ming, what kind of separated him from the Sean Bradleys and George Murasans and some of those other really big guys that were in, the league around then, was Yao had a really nice touch. Like, he would step out to 15 to 17 feet and drill jumpers. I'm sure he shot I don't know what his free throw percentage was, but I'm sure it was a pretty solid percentage. It wasn't the Shaq percentages, I'm guessing Yao shot a decent percentage.
Yes, he did.
Because he had a soft touch. And like you said, Zach's free throw percentage is staggering. I mean, because usually they say those guys with big hands, they always said that was part of Shaq's problem, was the big hands and all that stuff was making it hard to shoot the ball. But Zach's obviously got monstrous hands too, and it's not an issue for him. So just a real testament to him as far as he's obviously worked on it a lot, and he's just gifted with a nice soft touch. So I'm just impressed with how, right hand, left hand, he's just as comfortable shooting around the rim with his left hand as he is his right hand. His balance, his patience. There's times where he doesn't get rushed. Like right here's a good instance, very patient. Okay, double's not coming. I'm going to go into my move. There's other instances where he gets a pass underneath, and where some big guys, they might wait or hesitate, and then by the time they get ready to do something, the help has came. He does a good job where if he's got the ball in scoring position right underneath the basket, he just goes right away. Right hook, left hook. I'm scoring right away before the other team has a chance to double or get the ball out of my hands. So he's got a really good feel of if I've got the ball in the block, I'm going to kind of be patient for a second, wait to see what they're going to do. If they don't double, I'm scoring. If they do double, I'm going to try to find somebody. But then if he's got it within that 3 foot, 4 foot radius around the rim, I'm going right away. I'm scoring this thing before the defense has a chance to double or swarm me. So just impressed with his whole feel for the game, honestly, as just a guy who hasn't been playing that long.
And he's dunking the ball hard.
Yeah,
he's attacking the rim. And, God bless him. I love Trayvon Williams, but it took him for a while to start to attack the rim hard. Early in his tenure, he tried to play under the rim, but now later in his years, he started to dunk the ball. The dunk, obviously, is the most highest percentage shot in all of basketball. If you can dunk the ball, and if you're 7'4", you should be able to pretty well. And he's been doing it. And it's not only is it worth 2 points and a high percentage shot, but it's also an alpha move. It intimidates the other team. It kind of changes the momentum. So I really can't praise him enough.
Yeah, Andy Rathjen in the chat, good friend of mine, brought in the Yao Ming stat free throw percentage at 83%, which Zach Edey is topping that by a lot right now, and it's certainly a weapon because it gets to a point where teams are going to have to foul him, and you're going to make him pay. He's going to make them pay by doing that, but you have no choice because of how easy the buckets come from. He doesn't even have to jump half the time, and he's dunking it. I played it to start the show, but as you guys mentioned, dunking with authority, I have to play it again. It has sound, so we won't be able to talk over it, but here it is, Zach Edey throwing the hammer down. There he is, Zach Edey. How about that footwork, Bobby? To be able to the pirouette while he's trying to control the ball. I had people arguing with me on Facebook that it was a travel, and one guy was like, "It's a travel, son," and I was like, "Clean your glasses, pops."
Yeah, that was incredible footwork, and I'm with you. Like, it looks a little awkward. Like, I can see where somebody might think it's a travel, but I don't think it's a travel. I think it's clean and impressive that he actually came up with that basketball. I mean, he's a big guy. He's 7'4". The ball's like bouncing on the ground, and like usually there's little guards in there like myself, like able to snag that thing away from him. No, he was able to bounce it up to himself and snag it, spin, and then as Ben pointed out, he hammers it home. And I think he's been impressive with the dunking. I even saw that last year to some degree. It's been even more this year as far as just like, I think like a guy like Matt Harms at times was frustrating to fans probably because he's 7'3". When you're around the rim, we feel like you should dunk everything. And he certainly had his share of dunks, but there was a lot of times where there was opportunities for him to probably go hard and dunk. And he would try to finish off the glass or lay it in, and he would make a lot of those as well. But it's still not as high a percentage, like Ben said, as dunking. And what's impressive to me about Zach is, if he has any chance to dunk it, he will try, and he's successful a lot. And it's impressive that he's able to have that stability and the balance and the strength to try to dunk everything he can.
What'd you think of the shot, guys? I mean, come on. I'm not going to get
Look at you, big time courtside. How much did you drop for those tickets, Braggs?
Full disclosure, I didn't drop anything because I snuck down there. This is what we do here at Braggs and Stands. We sneak around. I put this late into the show, so I don't have to worry about the big wigs watching. But I'm sneaking around. If you don't stop me, you can only hope to contain me. And before the game started, I'm just pretending like I'm media and I'm just videotaping, getting my what was Ben or David Kovich was saying, too many Sasha Love snaps. And, I'm getting pictures and videos and I see a bunch of open seats on the court. You got Roy Williams, right down the way. And so I just made myself at home, just act like you're supposed to be there. Right. And I was quiet as a church mouse for the first half because I didn't want to get tossed. But then the second half, I'm going crazy every possession. And then when they started to take a little bit of a lead, I busted the camera out. I kept it in my pocket for most of the game, but I had to capture something at the end.
You were getting after the officials and everything. I saw.
You like that?
I saw the clips. Braggs is getting crazy with.
When they didn't give him when they didn't give him the 1-and-1 for Edie, I lost it on the official. Like, it could have tossed me at that point because I'd had enough.
Are you supposed to be sitting here? Oh.
Well, it's like back to the high school. You can work a high school rep. We are always able to sit down low and without an issue. But Purdue, they don't even really, the way their bowl is structured down low, you can't sit on the court. But you got to make your presence felt when you're on the sideline. So I was certainly doing it. It was fun to meet Roy Williams, all-time great coach. He certainly had a lot of high praise for what he saw from Purdue, and I got to meet. I'm a big Cub fan, and Boog Sciambi is the the TV guy for the Chicago Cubs. So it was cool. And then of course the best picture of the weekend, Bobby.
The biggest celebrity of them all.
The biggest celebrity of them all. But we get a lot of guff here from the guys in the chat. Everybody's got to hold my feet to the fire. We got Chubbs, who's a big Illinois fan, and I keep telling him to worry about his own team. But, he thinks we're jumping the gun. He's had these sentiments for the last show, too, saying, we were jumping the gun with the high praise of this team. Do any of you think that we're jumping the gun, getting ahead of ourselves, getting ahead of our skis when you talk about the talent of this team or considering them one of the top teams or the top team?
They're ranked number 2. I mean, and presumably, if they're lucky enough to beat Iowa on Friday, they'll be ranked number 1. I mean, at what point are you allowed to start praising the team that is going to be ranked number 1 in the nation? Don't get me wrong. I am not dumb enough to sit here and say, hey, they're going to be number 1 for the eternity of the season and for the next decade. No, but if you're ranked number 1, we're in a position where you can start patting them on the back a little bit. No championships have been won. I understand. You got folks that say banners this, banners that, whatever. The bottom line is, if you're ranked number 1, you get to pat them on the back a little bit.
Craig, your thoughts?
Hey, Ben, which fan base are you talking about with that banner?
No, I don't want to name names.
Sure. Like he said, we're ranked number 2 in the country. Hopefully we take care of business Friday and number 1. And I don't think we're out of line at all to start talking about them in the conversation of being one of the best teams in the country. And I mean, look at that Leonard Hamilton clip. You can go down the list with color analyst or Robbie Hummel talking like they've earned it. And there's everything on the court to back that up. And, somewhere in the country, Curbelo just turned the ball over again. So,
oh, yeah, exactly. That's what I keep telling him. Worry about Curbelo and Kofi, but he's always busting my chops. He was all after me last year when they lost. And, yeah, he's making fun of me because, I had panic attacks, which were not associated with Purdue basketball. But I stopped doing shows for like 3 weeks after that, and he always associates it. And my little boiler heart was broken. And, yeah, we all wear our hearts on our sleeves. We're fans. Bobby obviously played, and now he's the, color commentator for the radio side of Purdue basketball. But at the same time, I think we all root for this team, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's what fans do. And I agree with Chicago Rilla here. Take it all in, enjoy it, embrace the moment. And Chubbs is just looking out for me. He just doesn't want me to have it. I need to get my ass back to the gym, and that'll be the best way to prevent me from having a heart attack. But I'm too busy going to games 3 days.
Hey, whenever you're ready, Greg, we can work out together.
3 times. I got to get back on my macro diet and get my ass back in the gym. It's just hard, It's winter time, and I try to get that winter weight to keep me warm, So, Bobby, I don't want to keep you up all night, but, there is a couple guys I did want to touch on quickly. Isaiah Thompson, there was a lot of talk, of who was going to start. And, there were whispers that Edey was going to start over Trayvon. And then all of a sudden the starting lineup comes out for the exhibition. And there's Isaiah Thompson in over Eric Hunter, which certainly took a lot of people off guard. Certainly, I was one of them. And how do you think Isaiah has fit into this role and taken on this job? You mentioned he's shooting like 60% from 3-point land, something ridiculous, hitting big time shots against Villanova. What have you seen from Isaiah, and how impressed have you been with him so far?
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough about Isaiah. I mean, what a great start to the season for him. Just doing everything in his power to play that role to perfection right now as far as what this team needs. And I was very surprised to see Eric Hunter not be in the starting lineup. I think Eric's a terrific player as well. He's got a lot of positive attributes, but one thing that Isaiah does do better than Eric is shoot the 3-point shot at a higher percentage, and is a more accomplished shooter. And as far as how Isaiah complements that starting lineup, having that extra guy who's a dead-eye shooter, and right now he's shooting 60% or better or whatever, as we said, which is that would be the definition of a dead-eye shooter.
Where did that come from? He
was a 40% shooter last year, and a guy was known for shooting in high school, but right now he's obviously making shots at an insanely high clip. And part of that is he's getting, pretty good looks. He's certainly made some contested ones as well, but he's had a lot of really quality, high percentage open looks because of the talent that's surrounding him. He's the 4th or 5th option out there. So he's going to get those open looks. And it's kind of interesting as another Bulls reference here, but if Jaden Ivey is our Michael Jordan, Isaiah Thompson is really fulfilling that Steve Kerr, BJ Armstrong, John Paxson role to perfection, as far as not really a true break it down type of point guard, like none of those guys really were, but I don't turn the ball over, I'm solid, but I'm an absolute knockdown shooter. If you want to help on Michael or Scotty, hey, BJ or whoever's in the corner, and he's knocking that down at a high percentage. And that's really who Isaiah is playing like. He's playing, that's kind of the system Purdue has going, where he's the point guard, but he's really not the point guard as far as playmaking in the half court. But he's a guy who can bring the ball up against pressure. Florida State was trying some of that 2-2-1 full court pressure. Him and Eric both handled it very well. They don't turn the ball over. They know where to get the basketball. And then if they're left open, Isaiah in particular is shooting the threes at a really high percentage. And then what really impressed me about Isaiah was defensively, I knew he was a good shooter, but defensively I thought, and unfortunately as an undersized guy myself, I had to deal with this as well, as, you're smaller and you feel like, okay, against really good teams, he might get exposed defensively. And that still may happen at some point, especially if he faces a really big guard who's just a big time player. Fortunately, there's not many of those guys out there. But I thought in the Villanova game, Isaiah was incredible defensively on Colin Gillespie.
Yeah.
I thought he was battling with him. He was fighting through screens. He was staying in his hip pocket, sliding his feet. He's got great foot speed. the good thing about his weakness from a defensive standpoint is his size. Well, most point guards he's going to be going or guarding against aren't going to be huge guys. So as long as he has the foot speed to stay in front of people, that's the biggest part of that position defensively, and he's got the foot speed. So he's been really impressive. He rocks number 11, which I did, so I'm biased about that aspect about him. And he's really fallen into that role his brother played, and he's doing a great job.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier for him because, I mean, when we talk about these players sacrificing, he's a junior now, and he's had to sacrifice the last couple of years. He's played a limited role. When his number was called, he was always ready to play and, never complained about what his role was. I mean, PJ Thompson had a illustrious career at Purdue, and then he comes in. Sure, he had a lot of expectations, and he takes it day by day, and he does what the coach asks of him, and he does it to the best of his ability. And for him now to be in the starting role and play the way he is, I couldn't be happier for him. And, he's, earned it in a lot of ways. And I just showed the highlight of Eric Hunter, and I've liked how he's really come into the role. I'm sure it wasn't easy at first to accept. And then, you got Trayvon, and I'm sure he was a big part of this, even if it wasn't, documented by the media. But he's another guy that, took that on. And now that when they come out, they bring that energy. And, it's just all kind of fitting together really nicely here. And that happens when you win games. And, and credit to the players and Matt Painter, as I've said before, and of course I got to talk about my boy. We've talked about everybody, but I got to talk about my boy, the Serbian sniper. Got the mug here. We even got apparel now for the guy here at Brags in the Stands. What have you thought? They just put out his numbers here over the last 4 games. He's averaging like 13 points a game and 27 assists. To me, that's what stands out, because you can talk about the shots all day long. We all know the capable shooter that Sasha is, but something that stood out to me and his key role in this team is the way he passes, not just around the perimeter, but inside to the big guys. And I think, what I'd like to see when we talked about things that the team needs to get better at, that would be something I would pinpoint, is they all need to be getting it in like he does. I try not to gas up my boy too much, but he doesn't flinch when he throws it in. And you see that at the high school level, you see that at the college level, and you even see it at the pro level at times, where guys that at first want to pump fake because they want to see it before they give it. And you got a guy like Zach Edey down there that's so tall, you got a little room for air, just feed it to the big guy. What do you think about, the way Sasha has played to start this year? He's shooting like 50% from 3 or something like that, but specifically the way he's been passing the ball.
Yeah, Sasha's a amazing passer. It's kind of similar to like a quarterback sometimes, whereas you were kind of comparing him to other players. Some quarterbacks, I think Aiden O'Connell, Purdue's quarterback, for instance, is like this, where they just see plays developing before they happen. They're able to throw a receiver open before he comes out of his break. The timing is spot on, leading a receiver away from the defender, yards after the catch, things like that in football, where I think Sasha is great at that in basketball. Like, there can be a guy where, somebody else might think he's guarded, I can't fit that in there. Well, Sasha might see opportunity as, okay, if I put this ball in this certain spot away from the defender, leading my offensive player towards the basket to a certain hand, that's going to be a bucket. And Sasha has an amazing knack to put the ball in the right spot. And a lot of that's vision, and a lot of it's also confidence in his ability, to put the ball where he wants it. And so really impressed. He always, if he doesn't have a shot, he looks in, his first glance is to look inside. He's been trained well with all the great post players that Purdue's had while he's been there. And yeah, he does an amazing job throwing the ball away from the defense, giving his players a good angle. I mean, how many dunks have Zach Edey or Trayvon had because Sasha puts the ball in the right spot. And then a lot of that passing is opened up by his shooting, of course. He's such a lethal assassin out there that, defenses have to crowd him, which, leaves plenty of space for him to, even though it can be tougher at times when you're guarded closely, it does leave a lot of space for him to fit passes in because the lane is less crowded. So, yeah, I can't say enough nice things about him. Defensively, a very solid positional defender, knows where he's supposed to be at all times, follows the scouting report to a T. So those sorts of things are great for him from a defensive standpoint. And then offensively, as they've said, like there's like 1,000 plays, and Sasha knows all the plays just as well as the coaches.
Yeah.
And so he's very trustworthy. Coaches love guys who you can trust, and Sasha is one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean that was certainly one of those proud moments as a friend to hear a coach. Coach Painter
at a point,
Coach Painter doesn't give out compliments easy, and for him to say, he could coach the team, that's pretty profound and cool to hear. He's worked his ass off coming from the region, 3-star recruit. Nobody in Big Ten was looking at him, and he could have just been a guy that gets very limited minutes and comes off the bench, but opportunity came and he took advantage of that, and he's got the talent and the smarts to be able to continue into this role now, and it's just surreal to watch now with their opportunity they have on Friday. They were in an Elite Eight, when he first started here, as a very small role player, now built back all the way back up to this point where they could potentially be the number 1 team in the nation. They have all these accolades coming their way. He's walking off, the Hall of Fame tip-off classic, holding the trophy. I couldn't be happier for the guy, but more importantly, just happy for the Purdue Boilermakers and Matt Painter for betting on a kid like that. And I think that's what separates Purdue from, you hear Indiana fans always talking that crap in the comment sections wherever you're at, but Matt Painter finds those diamonds in the rough, and then he not only finds them, but he develops them and believes in them and finds their role and elevates them. Everybody talks about Grant Galen coming from Crown Point and it didn't work out at IU. If Matt Painter had Grant Galen, I bet you he would have had a pretty decent career, because that's the kind of coach that Matt Painter is. He finds a role and he develops that guy within that role. And that's what Purdue basketball is all about. As Fran Fraschilla kept saying, you got to be a businessman. You got to be the businessman and play for the business first if you're going to play at Purdue.
Right.
So go ahead. If you guys have any final thoughts for Bobby before we let him go to
Yeah, I actually did. Bobby, I wanted to commend you. Growing up, I had 2 major influences on my life that actually steered me to being a media guy myself. Well, one was named Joe Arredondo. He's a Northwest Indiana guy. Unfortunately, he's an IU alum, but he's one of the most wonderful human beings on earth. But he kind of inspired me to go into sports media. Another person was Larry Clisby, a young man he was young then, at least when I was watching him, kind of gave me a passion for Purdue sports. And you've had the opportunity to kind of pick up his torch and fill his shoes. And growing up, Larry Clisby was my hero. And for you to be able to take the mantle from him, and you're doing an excellent job, I really appreciate it. And I think you're doing a great job here. I wanted to say, hey, first of all, no pressure. Those are some big shoes that you're filling. But 2, do you have any interesting Larry Clisby stories that might be entertaining in a couple minutes or less? The kind of lighten up the mood here a little bit.
Sure. I mean, as far as, it's been an honor to try to follow in his footsteps. Obviously, Larry, just a true legend, an amazing guy that was part of the Purdue program for so long, and someone I always really enjoyed being around. He was one of the best storytellers. I'm a diehard Purdue fan. The first team I really remembered when I was younger, when I was probably 7 or 8, was Coach Painter's senior year, and then the Glenn Robinson junior year where they went to the Elite Eight and lost to Duke and won the Big Ten that year. That was kind of my first memory. So I was a diehard Purdue fan. So I always liked hearing about the stories from some of those teams, the Coach Katie teams that he was around all the time. And, Rob Blackman and I are doing, our best to try to give a good broadcast. We know we can't be Larry, but we hope that, people will warm up to us, as we continue to grow together. There's a picture of Rob and I with Wes Scott, our radio engineer, and we have a great relationship, us 3. It was neat because those 2 guys have also been with the program for a long time. Rob's first year as the color analyst was my first year as a player, Coach Painter's first year as head coach. And so I got to know Rob, and then Wes has been there even longer. And so I got to know Rob and Wes and Larry Clisby really well. that year and all the years as I was a player. And then I've stayed in touch with a lot of those guys by coming back to alumni events and things of that nature. So it's been really helpful for me because, you know, I'm a guy, I'm prideful. I want to try to do, you know, I always dreamed of doing a job like this. So I want to try to do as good a job as I can. And it's really helped me, even though last year was crazy with the COVID situation. This year, in a more regular year, it's helped me being around these guys who I have a good relationship with and I can lean on, and we can joke around and not take ourselves too seriously at times and things like that. And so it's been fun for me to try to get better every game and try to improve my craft. Just because, radio's fast. Like there's times like where I want to speak and say a lot more in-depth stuff, but it's like, oh wait, I got to stop talking so Rob can like get back to explaining what's happening on the floor. So it's definitely a learning process every game as far as trying to find your spots to get more detailed and things like that. But Rob does a great job. I love his enthusiasm. And as far as good Larry stories, I mean, Larry was just such a fun guy. Always had, you know, unless we lost, then he was really devastated, just like the coaching staff. But one of those guys, typically like at shoot-arounds and stuff, always fun to talk to. Kind of one of my favorite stories with him, and it's nothing like too crazy or anything, but it was kind of like a fun dig at me as far as, so I make the team, and my dad, who was a cardiologist in town, was Larry's doctor because Larry had some heart stuff going on around that time period a little before. And my dad like essentially saved his life for all intents and purposes by diagnosing him and helping him get through some heart issues. And he was like, I'd been with the team for a little while, and he's like, Bobby, I really love you. You're a great guy, but I love your dad even more than you. He said, and I was like, wow, like I was proud, you know, proud son there, just because obviously I look up to my dad a lot as well and think highly of him. So I'd always, you know, heard great things about how good a doctor he was and all that stuff. But then to hear like Larry Clisby, a guy like, as you said, Ben, someone who I looked up to a lot as a young kid, to say nice things about my dad and say like he saved his life, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So that's my cool Larry Clisby story.
That's very cool. And I just want to say thank you. You're doing a great job. And, you know, looking forward to hearing many more years of you pulling color commentary here for the Purdue Boilermakers. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Hope so.
Braggs is muted one more time. Still muted. Yep, still muted, man.
Craig, if you got anything for Bobby, I'm doing something.
I think you
Craig, if you got something for Bobby, it's all you.
Geez, I'm laughing at you, and I'm doing the same thing. So, no, I think we can wrap up there. You know, I don't think I can top Ben's final prompt there and the stories that got told. It's like Ben works in media for a living or something. So we'll let Bobby ride out there.
All right. Well, I was trying to pull up a Clisby video because I had a good one. Because, like I said, you know, when Greg's always sneaking around doing stuff, I had some great footage of him when Purdue won the Big Ten championship. And, you know, it was one of the last moments for him here as a Purdue Boilermaker. So, you know, I'm like last minute scrambling. And, well, here it is, you know, because this is the kind of production you get
Braggs.
here at Braggs in the Stands. I didn't clip it completely perfectly, so you'll have to forgive me. But there he is as Purdue comes off. And this was another thing where I just kind of found my way. And it got a little fresh with the squad as Clisby was walking off and congratulating each player. And so there it is. It's a nice little moment. And they're going to commemorate him on Friday. You know, the first 2,000 fans that come to Mackey Arena get a bobblehead for Larry Clisby. And, you know, Bobby obviously taking over in the role here for Cliz, doing an excellent job. We, you know, once had the bullseye, and now we got buckets. Bobby, buckets. Any final thoughts, Bobby, or maybe some keys of the game Friday for the Purdue Boilermakers as they look to try to attain that number 1 ranking in the nation for the first time in the 120 years of their school's history for their men's basketball program.
Yeah. One other quick thought on Kliz before I get into the Iowa game. There was one of the reasons I looked up to him and remember him so fondly was there was after that 1993-94 season, which was the last Glenn Robinson season, where they win it was the first Big Ten championship of their three-peat. They go to the Elite Eight. Great season. Glenn was obviously incredible. They made a highlight tape summary of the season, that commemorated how great a season it was. And Larry was the narrator on that whole video. I don't know if Ben or any of you other guys remember seeing that, but I had the VHS tape of it, and that was the first team I really remembered and grew to love. So I watched that VHS tape 1,000 times. And so Larry spoke to me zillions of times through that video. So had a lot of fond memories of Conzo Martin and Glenn Robinson, all those guys in that video. That was a great season. But as far as the Iowa game, I'm pretty confident going into this one. Obviously, we're going to be really tough to beat in Mackey regardless. But, Iowa is a very talented offensive team. They got Keegan Murray, who is an up-and-coming sophomore on the rise, who was leading the country in scoring, I want to say, not that long ago, and maybe still is. Need to do a little more radio prep on that one for tomorrow or for Friday's game. But I think defensively, Iowa's always been pretty shaky, to say the least. And I think we might put up a lot of points against the Hawkeyes. So I'm pretty confident
they haven't topped 100 yet. So do you?
Yeah.
Your prediction on if they can eclipse 100?
I think 100 is very much a possibility. As far as just, I'm not sure I was going to have the defensive capabilities to stop all the weapons we're going to have. Obviously, there's a chance we just have an off shooting game, and they benefit from that. But the nice thing about Purdue is we have so many weapons, and Iowa, they're just not a super solid defensive team as far as just their scheme and all those things. And they don't have a lot of elite defensive players from a personnel standpoint either. And so I think Purdue's going to be able to have its way offensively. Iowa's a really talented offensive team too, so they're going to give Purdue a handful on that end. But I think the Boilers are going to be victorious.
There you go. Well,
hey, just so you don't have to look that up, Bobby, he's still leading the country in scoring at 24.6. So
thank you.
And Greg. Iowa's basketball team plays defense about as good as their football team plays offense. No! So we might hit 120 points on Friday.
Carmen.
I'm with you, Craig.
Yeah, Bobby, if you need help with prep, Tal will be happy to, give you any kind of prep work you need for the upcoming Iowa Hawkeyes. They're diehard Iowa Hawkeye fans, so we appreciate them joining and, getting the intel for their squad. I'm sure she'll be tweeting away all the information we've given tonight. Some quality information at that, as you always give us quality minutes here at Brags in the Stands, Bobby Riddell. And I can't thank you enough, for all your contributions here and what you do for Purdue basketball. It's been a lot of fun getting to know you here the last couple of years, and now you have to deal with me stalking you, and that's just something you're going to have to live with, and it's not going to stop. You think when Sasha graduation is done, I'm still coming to these games, and I will continue to stalk and snipe you, and I appreciate you. Well,
I'm glad you're going to stick
getting a restraining order.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. I'm glad you're not just a one-hit wonder with Sasha around. So you got to stick with us through and through.
Nope, I made the switch, and it's a permanent one, and it feels right. The first time I was a season ticket holder, they went undefeated at home. Now they're having a chance at number 1 ranking in the nation. Last year with the freshman phenoms. This has been an easy ride for me so far, although short of the Virginia heartbreak that Chubbs will never let me forget. But maybe they can make up for those kind of memories here this year. We will find out. But that's the fun in sports, is chasing the moment. That's what Brags in the Stands is all about, going to the games and chasing the moment. You get one moment, then you chase another. So it's never good enough, and it's always evolving. But hopefully we get some special moments here to end the year. We certainly already had some special ones and historic ones from these Purdue Boilermakers already. So we will continue to talk about them here, and we look forward to bringing you on again, Bobby. And I promise, man, anytime you don't want to spend an hour of your time bullshitting with us, you don't have to. You just say the word, but we definitely appreciate it and all your knowledge and charisma you bring to Brags in the Stands, and you help me from not rambling for a whole hour by myself.
No problem. I always enjoy coming on and talking Boilermaker basketball. It's one of my biggest passions, as you guys know.
Yeah,
so,
that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, Bobby. Well, we'll cut you loose, let you go. We'll see you Friday. I'll be sure to post some kind of sniper stalking snap of you, and I'll put it out to the Twitter sphere for everyone to see. So thanks again, Bobby. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, fellas. Talk to you later, guys.
Take care.
Take care. All right. That is Bobby Riddell heading to bed after a long, nice, heartful conversation about our beloved Purdue Boilermakers looking to go to the top of the mountain, #1 ranking. It's very exciting. Craig called it. I was, the hopes in the clouds fan, just like a lot of people were expecting or hoping for that #1 ranking. And it ended up being 59 to 1 or 51. Yeah, 59 to 1. The AP rankings came out for Duke in favor. But then, as Craig pointed out, the coaches poll was much closer. So that's why I got respect for coaches. They really understand the game better than those stupid AP reporters. But regardless, both had Duke in there. And then Duke held it for about 2 days. And now we'll see if Purdue can be the one to take it. Because that was something that stood out to me, guys, before we can, end this show and let you guys get to the Michigan game, which is certainly winding down to be a good one. We had an interesting chant in the stands that I had to make note of. We've had a few Fire Nagy chants here around the Chicagoland area at every sporting event that takes place. It could be a volleyball game, and you're going to hear a Fire Nagy chant break out. So here was the chant at Mackey Arena last night. There it is. We want Duke. I don't think that's ever been echoed throughout Mackey Arena. You guys have been long time Purdue fans, longer than I have. Have you ever heard a chant quite like that at Mackey Arena about Purdue basketball?
I can't say that I have. I guess my question is, if we take care of Iowa on Friday, who do we start chanting for then? If we move up to the #1 spot, what are we supposed to do at the end of the game in terms of who we want to play?
Yeah, we got what we want. We got what we want. I'm probably going to change. Or I saw some people tongue in cheek say, "Oh, great! Now Ohio State's going to be put #1 in the nation because they beat the #1 team in the nation," which was the science behind Duke hopping Purdue after they beat Gonzaga, and Gonzaga, had a tough time against Tarleton State. But I digress. It doesn't. Rankings are, at the end of the day, you want to be ranked #1 at the end of the year. And, Purdue won a national championship in 1932, but they didn't have rankings back then. Right. And that's the goal for Purdue, is to be #1 at the end of the year. But at the same time, it would be a great badge of honor. And it's big for recruiting. And there's a lot of different reasons why it's big. And for all the fans that have been through a lot with this school, a lot more than I have ever had to go through. I've had the one heartbreak moment, but it's mostly been fun here so far as a Purdue Boilermaker fan. You guys have been through a lot more. And as a Cub fan, lifelong Cub fan, I can definitely understand what that's like. So to be #1 in the country is certainly a big deal. And I know that they're ready to take that challenge head on, but I'm expecting some tense vibes to start the game, and it'll be a lot of fun. Ben, what are your thoughts with the chant? And then obviously I have a couple questions of other chants that, go ahead, Ben.
Well, to be honest with you, I think it shows the attitude and the feisty nature that the Boilermaker faithful have right now. And in the immortal words of Ric Flair, in order to be the man, you got to beat the man. So we want to take on Duke. But it definitely appears right now that Purdue is going to be the man here very shortly if they can take care of business on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. And this can be a conversation for another day, but just watching Duke and Gonzaga and always thinking through a Purdue lens, I certainly like, and then especially after watching them last night against Ohio State, Duke that being, I like how they match up with those teams, but that is way ahead of the schedule.
Oh, yeah.
And if they can get to that point, that means Purdue's playing some good basketball because it would be in a Final Four or a national championship. But I really do like how they match up with them. But that is a conversation for another day. The conversation I did want to touch on with you quickly, Ben, is these chants because, the Duke one, was apropos because they got ranked 2 and Duke was ranked 1, and then Duke ended up losing. So, Purdue definitely had a gripe because I had somebody, a Duke fan in my mentions when I posted that on Twitter, a Duke fan put comical, and then 20 minutes later their team went down. So I gave his comical a little like, but I didn't say anything to him. I just put the like as a little passive aggressive wink to him.
Sure.
But the chants are interesting at Purdue. That is something I've learned here, becoming a Purdue fan. It started with the IU sucks, and they had a whole song rendition that would go with it. What they call it, Hail Fire, and and Matt Painter kind of put the kibosh on that. And as a Cub fan, with having to deal with Sox fans, and we call Sox fans little brother. Right.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of rivalries where you hear that. And IU fans like to say that about Purdue fans.
Sure.
But Purdue's owned this rivalry for quite some time. And, and Painter kind of took exception to that chant, ended it. A lot of Purdue fans were upset with it. You still kind of hear it every once in a while. Somebody will bust out a sign. But I actually like that he went away with it because to me, it's a mentality thing. And if you want to elevate to that next level, because even as a Bears fan, we chant Green Bay sucks as we walk through the tunnel, but we all know it's not true. And I hate saying it because Chubbs will probably drag me through the streets like he did when Aaron Rodgers said I owned you. And I was like, at that point, I was as defeated as a Bears fan has ever been when he said that at the game. And I had to, agree with him. For us to chant Green Bay sucks, it's tongue in cheek and we know it's not true. And if we ever want to be above the Packers that day, we don't have to worry about Green Bay. And I like that they stopped that chant to an extent because I know a lot of fans were upset with it because tradition is tradition. But there is another chant now that I have a gripe with now that one's out of the way, and it's the left-right chant when a player fouls out. Right? Now, bear with me because I see you kind of shrugging over there, but bear with me. The other day against Omaha, a player fouls out. They're beating them by 70. They've had a tough enough day. Leave the poor kid alone is my thought. But I know it's all in good fun. But here's my bigger picture to it. In other games in years past, a player typically fouls out in a tight game, a real battle that's coming down to the wire. And if a player fouls out, now Purdue is at the line. And it's supposed to be quiet. The guy is shooting a free throw, and now they're chanting left, right, after each footstep. And if the guy doesn't sit down right away, they're chanting this within the free throw motion. And then when he sits down, everyone yells, sit down. And that could happen like right in the shooter's backstroke. And I'm sitting there like, guys, it's a serious game going on right now. Like, focus. And paint crew might tear me apart when I show up on Friday, but is this a valid concern, or should I just shut up and let these kids have fun and old man get off his porch and go inside?
Greg, they've been doing this forever. I saw Luke Rimrecker, if you remember Luke Recker from back in the what was that, late 90s? I can't remember exactly. He pulled the infamous left, right as he fouled out in a game, close game, and he went to sit down. He fake sat down. It created a big crowd reaction, and it just made a lot of noise in Mackey Arena while we were trying to shoot free throws. Purdue was trying to shoot free throws.
We say we.
Well, anyways, I vividly remember that. So yes, if a player is crafty enough, they can definitely use it to their advantage.
Yeah, just don't sit there, keep doing the left, right. Now, Craig, do you think I'm old man River over here and zip it, or is the gripe valid that this is somewhat of a distraction while Purdue is trying to shoot free throws?
No, long story short, you need to get off your porch and quit yelling at the kids on the lawn and just stop. So that's one of my favorite moments in any game when it does happen. And like, The opposing players have fun with it too. You'll see them, as Ben said, they'll kind of fake sometimes, or they'll stand there purposely until the last minute and then sit down to kind of goad the crowd along. So, yeah, no, I really like it. And, heck, the other night, I don't think it's offensive anyway. And the other night, Purdue fans actually started cheering for Omaha when they were scoring.
They did
at some point in that game.
They did.
So,
And to Purdue, also to piggyback off that, they cheered for Omaha after the 32-1 run that they went on and Omaha scored. And I gave a lot of credit to the Purdue fans for cheering them to, because it was getting out of hand. And they didn't, that just shows the basketball savvy that they have as a fan base. But then also last night, Purdue's social media puts out the GoFundMe for Florida State's point guard, whose brother died of leukemia. And then the paint crew all wrote a letter and they all signed it and gave that to the point guard from Florida State, and his name eludes me, unfortunately. But that just shows the character that they have, even if they want to have a little fun. And Painter's trying to take it all away with the IU sucks, and I'm trying to take it away with the left right. But definitely an observation I had. But I enjoyed the "We Want Duke" chant because it to me it is a mentality, and it shows that they're ready for that, as a fan base. And I think the team, represents that confidence, and that's why they have that. Football and basketball, you're starting to see a real confident program, and that spills over into the fan base and the paint crew. So shout out to that. Final thought here on Brags in the Stands. Really appreciate your guys' time. I'm going to let you guys go have fun with the last 10 minutes of this Michigan game. Definitely went over, but a lot of good stuff with Bobby Buckets, talking Purdue basketball on a historic week. So I definitely wanted to get a show in, and appreciate both your time here tonight. Craig, I'll start with you. Any final thoughts before I cut you loose?
Yeah, I just got two things, I guess. One, whenever I get done here, I really want to know what Sasha thinks about you having a Jaden Ivey jersey on your back wall and a Sasha jersey. Number two, I'm really excited on Friday to see Caleb first play Keegan Murray. I'm assuming that he's probably going to be the main person that has to play defense on Keegan. I think Keegan is the truth. If you watch him, I think he's a legit high-level NBA talent. Obviously, he's leading the country in scoring. I think that's going to be a fun matchup to watch. Caleb being a freshman playing at an extremely high level. I know Bobby called kind of mentioned role player there, but he is one of, I think, like 5 freshmen in the country averaging 10.7 rebounds and shooting over 60% or something like that. But he's played good defense too. But I think this is probably going to be the best forward he's had to match up with all year. And I'm really looking forward to watching that on Friday.
Yeah, it certainly will be interesting, hitting big buckets as we played to start the show, against Villanova. But then, as you mentioned, on the defensive end as well, and then I thought one of the keys to last night's game was Eric Hunter, Mason Gillis, and Brandon Newman getting their moment, specifically Newman, who's been, definitely battling to try to get as many minutes as he can in this tight group, that has a lot of talent. So it was like his moment last night in a lot of ways. Eric Hunter, I thought, had a lot of great moments last night as well. Mason Gill is still trying to, shake off the rust and fall into this group that's been playing. He had to sit out a few games. And maybe Mason will be somebody that also gives Keegan some problems, and he can have his moment on Friday. Each guy seems to be taking a turn, getting the star of the show kind of thing with each game. So I think Mason could be also someone that helps with that cause as far as some of Iowa's top talent is concerned. So, certainly will be interesting and looking forward to it. As far as the Jaden Ivey jersey is concerned, my daughter Addison has a little Sasha jersey. I'm trying to get one. I'm going to get one here soon because I'm going to hang it in my man cave just like I got the McMahon jersey nicely framed. I don't want to bug Sasha. I know where he lives, so I'll get it from him eventually. But Jaden, is actually a little quick story. But I have all these 23 signed jerseys. I have a Jordan jersey, Hester, Sandberg, and you guys are going to kill me, but I've been a lifelong Notre Dame fan because, as you know, I came over from the other side, Notre Dame football. And, so if, the stigma goes IU basketball, Notre Dame football, I definitely fit that stereotype. but now I've bled in, to you guys. So you got to deal with that crap with me. So I have a Golden Tate 23 from Notre Dame. So I have 4 23s, and I needed the 5th one of my other favorite team. And I'm going to have 5 23s in my den outside this room, go across the big wall. And that's why I had to get the jersey, and I had Jaden was nice enough to give me some ink on it. So I had to put it up for today. So, Sasha's just going to have to deal with it. So, he's a hell of a talent. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with Purdue. Not sure if he's going to be able to stick around for his junior year. I think that's still left to be determined, but probably not. But when you consider where Ayo Dosunmu went in the draft last year in the 2nd round of the Bulls, you just never know how these scouts are sometimes. But Jaden certainly has, in my opinion, more athleticism than Ayo does, above the rim athleticism. So probably going to get some higher NBA looks in that regard, but that's getting ahead of ourselves. He's certainly all the talent in the world that can play at that level. So I'm excited to see where his career goes. But that's the story behind that. Craig, really appreciate your time tonight. Let you get to bed, get to doing your thing. I know you're a busy man doing all sorts of stuff. So thank you again. We'll bring you on here soon for the next Purdue basketball conversation, and hopefully they're ranked number 1 in the nation when we do.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. That is
Nice talking with Craig.
Yeah, that is Craig Bowers from Boiler Diehards Facebook page. You can join that Facebook group, and it's a lot of good Purdue sports conversation going on in there. Ben, any final thoughts you have here as we wrap this and put a bow on this in the Christmas season? Such a big game Friday. You've been a lifelong Purdue fan, and a moment that could be something that truly is special for the Purdue program.
I hope so. I hope so. I can only put it this simply and this most simplistically and straightforward. My birthday is Friday, December 3rd. And that is the day we play Iowa. And there is one birthday wish I want, and it is a Purdue victory. So we'll just leave it at that.
I like it. Well, last Monday was my birthday.
Oh, there we go.
And I was hoping for the same birthday wish you were hoping for, and they gave that wish to Duke. And but I took the number 2. I was happy that they didn't have Gonzaga ahead of Purdue, because that was also key. If they had put Gonzaga ahead, then maybe Gonzaga falls back into the 1 seed if Purdue couldn't get the job done on Friday. But Purdue's got to do their work first, and then we can talk about it second. That's how it goes here. So I hope your birthday wish comes true, and the wish of a lot of Purdue fans around the world and in West Lafayette. So Ben, again, from ISC Purdue, that's another thing I forgot to do. Normally I do with all my guests is tell them where they can find you, Ben. Do you want to, you do a lot of definitely work on the beat in college and high school. Do you want to kind of run it through for everybody that's tuned in and where they can find you and what you do?
If you're into my BS that I deal with here, I work with ISC Purdue. I write a weekly column for them. I am a featured columnist and write kind of a breakdown of what my eye test says for the week on end. And that runs from the beginning of football season through the end of basketball season, whenever that may be, hopefully this time in April. And keep running through that. And we have a lot of fun with it. I try to be kind of funny, try to be kind of loose, and a little more informal and snarky than most sports writers are. When it comes to my high school stuff, for Northwest Indiana, mostly folks, I am a contributor to Pitt Prep Football Report Scoreboard. That's on Lakeshore Public Television, and 89.1 FM, the Lakeshore. That's out of Northwest Indiana and Crown Point, Lowell, and Gary, and Maryville, that whole area. And I've been working there for a long time, and we do it for a lot of the passion and the love that we have for Northwest Indiana and the sports that we have up there. And I've been wanting to work there since I was a kid, and they were covering me playing football. But it's definitely been a dream of mine to be able to help contribute to that as well. So Got two of my passions: Northwest Indiana sports, Northwest Indiana, and the Purdue Boilermakers. It's two of my favorite things on earth, and I absolutely love it.
Yep, and it's a match made in heaven when it's Purdue and in the region. They've had a lot of region ties, especially for the men's basketball program with Glenn Robinson and Robbie Hummel, and of course Sasha Stefanovic and Brandon Newman now. So that's why I'm never leaving this squad. I will be a season ticket holder the rest of my life because it just feels right, and I don't know what the hell I was thinking my whole life. Well, my dad kind of put me into it, but my friendship with Sash definitely superseded any kind of fan interest. So I have a lot of friends that give me crap for it, but I will never regret it. And it's been a lot of fun. And for the IU fans that have busted my balls and were real pissed when I first announced my switch, my boy's undefeated against them, and he's got potentially 2 or maybe 3, depending on how the Big Ten tournament lays out. 3 more to go, and I'm not putting any pressure on Sash, but I certainly would like for him to go undefeated the way Tommy Luch did against IU, but we shall see. So appreciate all your hard work, between college and in the region. And Drain just won the state title. So for football,
they did. Good for them.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff that we can talk about here on Brags in the Stands. You're always welcome here, Ben. Enjoy your charisma, positivity,
thank you,
and those good looks, like we talked about.
Come on, you're way overstating
the cameras here.
I'm gonna have to tell my wife that you said this sort of thing because she doesn't believe
Just
it. So we're gonna have to remind her.
I'll clip it for you, and then you can play it as proof to her. Well, I'll let you get back to your family. You got the Christmas tree rocking. We got the Christmas tree up. But we don't have the ornaments on it yet.
Sure,
so you're beating me to the
point. Well, this is our backup tree, as you can see. We have our main tree in the room over there, and it's taller, and it's got all the kids ornaments and stuff on it, and all that fancy stuff. This is more along the lines of just so this is in our front room, so that the neighbors can see that we have a Christmas tree, and this is more for decoration purposes.
A lot of gold, on that tree.
Yes, that was by design.
All right. I like it. All right, Ben. Well, we're going to cut you loose. Thanks again for all your time. We'll talk Purdue basketball here very soon here on Brags in the Stands.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
Of course. Take care. That was Ben Kolodzinski from ISC Purdue. Also want to give a special thanks to Craig Bowers, Boiler Diehards. You can find him at Craig Bowers 34 on Twitter. Find him on Twitter at Boiler Diehards Facebook page. Sign up for that group for some great Purdue sports content. And, of course, got to shout out my guy, Bobby Riddell, a.k.a. Bobby Buckets, for coming on. Does a great job as the color analyst for Purdue men's basketball radio. Thank you for all your time tonight, all 3 of you. It's been a lot of fun this season already. Had a lot of, bright lights moments, got to see these guys on a big stage in Connecticut taking on North Carolina, who's actually, for spoiler alert, just in case you got the game taped, North Carolina's taking it to Michigan here in the second half with about 10 minutes to go, and then got to see them take down Villanova down 11 for the trophy. Really, really cool moment to see, and I'm looking forward to more moments to come for this team. They've got a lot of stuff to look forward to, but a lot to be proud of already. So it's a special season. It's a special season for these Boilermakers, and we're going to see exactly what they're made of, here over the next 4.5 months. So we're just going to have to see how it all plays out. But that's the fun in sports, is enjoying it. The journey is better than the destination, as my guy Mark Silverman of Waddle and Sylvie from ESPN 1000 always says, and he is definitely right in that regard. I can say it as a Cub fan who waited my whole life to watch the Chicago Cubs win the World Series. When they finally won it, I almost died of a heart attack, as Chubbs likes to point out. He's trying to save me from. But the journey to that moment was so much fun, because it's you know it when you see it, when your team is finally ready to do that special thing that you've been waiting your whole life for. And, you get to enjoy every little moment along the way. And then when it comes to that moment to finally slay the dragon, it's scary. And there's always the trials and tribulations as you go through that journey, and it gets extremely stressful. And then when you finally get to the mountaintop at the very peak and you're trying to reach it, it's as, tense a moment as you're going to have. And for most fans that wear their heart on their sleeve, it's not a fun experience because you lose about 10 years of your life hoping for that moment. But the journey is certainly what you can appreciate. And that's what we're on right now here as Purdue Boilermaker fans. So I encourage everyone to enjoy it. I certainly am. Beck and John asking, is anyone still around? You're around, and that's what counts. There's some people watching, but not as talkative in the chat, and that's okay. We've been rambling on here these last 30 minutes, but having fun. Haven't done as many Brags in the Stand shows here lately, just with all the busyness of my schedule, traveling to Connecticut, doing all these different things. We've had a few live shows. I did a live show recently for the Collector's Cave for the Aramis Ramirez signing, and also Aramis Ramirez and Miguel Montero, and we had Crawley on. That was a great Cubs show. If you're a Cubs fan like Matt Painter is, tune into that for a great conversation with Crawley, our guy Paul, who's a diehard Cub fan. We had a really fun conversation there, and they have an upcoming autograph signing here with Patrick Wisdom and Nico Horner on December 11th at Catch Table and Tap in Maryville, Indiana. So you can get that if you can get tickets to that at www.thecollectorscave.com and have your chance to meet some of the new and up and coming stars of the Chicago Cubs. They just picked up a big time pitcher, from the Toronto Blue Jays that everybody's been kind of waiting to see what the Cubs would do. There's word in the chat that we could be looking at I say we as a Cub fan, but Carlos Correa. They just picked up Marcus Stroman, who's a really talented major league pitcher here. So, hey, maybe the Cubs aren't too far away from that rebuild that we've all been waiting for, now that they let go of some of the bigger players. But you can meet Patrick Wisdom and Nico Horner, some of the better players from last year, on December 11th at Catch Table and Tap in Maryville, Indiana, brought to you by The Collector's Cave, always doing their thing. So I wanted to give them a quick shout out. And if you're looking for Serbian Sniper apparel, as I showed earlier, I got the mug here. We got shirts, we've got hoodies, we've got jogging pants, and all the proceeds go to the Versus Cancer Foundation, that helps kids with cancer, the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation and Versus Cancer work hand in hand to help kids that are going through a lot, with their finances, or, they take, individual kids and try to give them a moment. They like I said, they need all the help we can get. Very small percentage of cancer money research goes towards kids with cancer. And I know that sounds crazy, but there's a lot of different cancer foundations because, a lot of people, are battling cancer. That's just a sad reality that we live in. And, the Versus Cancer Foundation specializes with sports, individuals, sports athletes, and specifically helping kids with cancer. And they do a great job at that. My guy, Dave Mays over there. So if you buy any Serbian Sniper apparel, you can, all the proceeds will go towards that. And if you're looking for where can I find that stuff, here's the .com at the bottom. It's a Teespring store. So if you just go to search Brags in the Stands Teespring on Google, or if you want to type in the official .com, there it is below. And you can get all sorts of different Serbian Sniper apparel that's available to you. Sasha Stefanovic being the Serbian Sniper. So really, really excited to be partnering up with my guy to do that. And this is kind of what the store looks like when you come in. We've got a lot of Bears apparel because this is a Chicago sports show, and also my guys from Purdue. That's what we cover, is wherever I'm at in the stands. And this is kind of what the store looks like. And as you keep scrolling down, the more shirts appear, and the Serbian Sniper stuff is the most recently added. So it's at the bottom. So you got to keep scrolling to find it. and get all sorts of cool stuff. Hoodies, T-shirts, jogging pants, cups. We had zip-up hoodies. They're out of stock right now, so I'm trying to effort from the Brags or the Teespring people to see how we can get those back in stock, because I've had some people asking about that. So that's just kind of how it goes, when you're working with an outside outlet like that. So I appreciate everyone's support, and that would be interesting. But Beck and John says, say jogging again. I want to see if you always say that word funny. Jogging. What? I don't know. Yogging. I don't know what to tell you. Jogging. I don't ever do it. That's probably why I say it funny. So, but I digress as I say that for like the 5th time. So we'll see if the Cubs can pick up Carlos Correa. They've already made a nice addition here. Probably a little bit of a surprise to a lot of Cubs fans, but this is a Purdue show, and we appreciate everyone hanging out, including my girl Faye. And of course, even Tal and Carmen Carcino, diehard Iowa Hawkeye fans. So we're taking on Iowa here. Want to give a shout out to Taco Grease, Chubbs82, Chicago Rilla. Specifically want to shout out Chicago Rilla because I saw in the chat earlier, as we were talking a lot of different things, this guy, was nice enough to subscribe here with a tier 1 subscription on Twitch to our Brags in the Stands channel. So that was very nice of you. Want to give a shout out to Chicago Rilla for subscribing. You can follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or Twitch, as you see there. And you can watch more Brags in the Stands shows going forward in the future. And we've already covered how Purdue is number 2. Tie guy 29-36. But if you want to find out for yourself, go back, watch the whole show. There's plenty of great information as to why they're number 2 and very well could be number 1 in the nation come next Monday at 11 a.m. Central. So appreciate you popping in here, Tie guy. And then, of course, we got to say fire Nagy, because if we don't chant fire Nagy for every event, then it may not happen. So fire Nagy, ladies and gentlemen. There you have it. That's how we're ending the show, is talking. Bears always rear their ugly head. Just the ultimate distraction at this point, and I can't stand it. I just want the Bears to be good so we can just enjoy all our sports in peace. We're at the Bulls game for my birthday the other night. They're chanting it there. Thank God. Thankfully, I'm at the Purdue game last night, and they're not chanting it. Get some peace from the Chicago Bears going to one game and not having to hear that chant is nice. So that'll about wrap things up. Again, I'm Gregory Braggs Jr. Thank you again to Craig Bowers, Ben Kolodzinski, and of course, Bobby Riddell, color analyst of Purdue Men's Basketball Radio, for coming on tonight. And again, thank you to everybody that tuned in and hung out in the chat. Greatly appreciated. Till next time, this is Brags in the Stands, and boiler up. We'll see you at Mackey Arena on Friday.
Oh, yeah.